Citric acid, aka sour salt. It's one of the most underutilized seasonings in home cooking. Let me show you why. Now, I use a few different acids on the show, but citric acid isn't one of them, but this is a very easy to get acid. It can be used as a flavor enhancer, food preservative, and a leavening agent when you're baking. Now, I called this the other MSG because of its flavor enhancing properties. And unlike MSG, it doesn't contain any sodium. The sour salt name only comes from its appearance. Now, where MSG is essentially a flavor enhancer alone, citric acid does all of those things listed. Now, MSG enhances flavors of savory foods, where citric acid enhances flavors of sour foods or acidic foods. But it does a really good job at balancing out flavors. Now, if you think about recipes you've made before, acid has probably played like a key role. Anything fermented is acidic. Pickles, wine, vinegar, beer, cheese, that's all acidic. So next time you're making that cheeseburger, think about all the toppings you're putting on top of it. Those acids pair really nicely and balance out all of the flavors of that savory burger. And just like a burger, if you have a dish that might be too savory or too rich, adding a little bit of acid might balance it out and get it back the other way, which can help brighten a lot of flavors that are in a dish. Now, like Monica and I's dinner tonight, this mushroom pasta, it's really good, it's super savory, it's very rich. But before we got into that, I'm gonna make just a simple bread. We're not making sourdough. Sourdough is soured naturally from the fermentation process. That takes a few days. But we can make a nice sour loaf of bread just using some citric acid. And it's easy, it just takes like a few hours, mostly waiting time. Now, before the sourdough people get mad, I am not making sourdough. That's not what this is. I'm just making a sour loaf of bread that is really tasty.
Now, this super simple sour bread that's not sourdough only has a few ingredients, and again, it's really easy. Now, I'm going to be using a stand mixer, but you could totally do this by hand. I'm going to start with 1 3/4 cup hot water, that's about 100 degrees, 2.5 teaspoons active dry yeast, pinch of sugar, along with a little pinch of flour. Now, I'm going to let that sit for about 5 minutes until it blooms. You'll see it looks really cool. Now, we just need 1 tablespoon of sugar, about 3 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of the perfect ingredient, citric acid. And we're going to start to mix. While it's mixing, I'm just watching for the dough to kind of like start to come together, and it will form a dough ball, but it's not going to be there yet. I'm just going to start adding a little flour at a time. It's going to take about another 1.5 cups of flour until I have a dough ball that's sticky, but not super sticky, and it pulls away from the side of the mixer. Once we get to that point, I'm going to turn up the speed a little bit and let that knead for about 5 minutes. If you're doing it by hand, you're probably going to want to knead for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now, at this point, it is looking really good. So I'm just going to pull it out, put the mixer away, fold it into a nice dough ball, and I'm going to cover it with a little like olive oil, or I have this like special oil that's like a sage infused. I thought that might be pretty good. I'm just going to cover just a tiny little bit of it, toss it back into the mixing bowl, cover it up, and let it rest for about an hour. Which is plenty of time for today's sponsor, Vetted. Vetted is a free browser extension that automatically compares products, reviews, and prices for you so you can always get the best value for your money. I mean, pretty much everything on Amazon is rated 4.5 stars anymore. How do you know which products have accurate and up-to-date reviews? Now, I was recently looking for a new water bottle, and I don't know about you, but I'm into like high-tech stuff, and if you've heard about some of these new water bottles, they actually filter with UV light. But if you search on Amazon, there is a ton of them. Normally, I would search forever. I would read reviews online, I would watch videos, and if I was really busy and needed something, I would just usually go with Amazon's top pick, and I would get the product and end up being disappointed a lot of the time. So with Vetted, it will tell you the best options in each price range. You can see why they chose the product with reviews and ratings from like Wirecutter, Reddit, CNET. They use different sources depending on the product, but all of the research is already done for you. It's all put in one place and you can see it. Normally I'd get like paralyzed with choices, but with Vetted, they really narrow it down. And it works right on Amazon and Google. Everything is right there for you. My favorite part is definitely the product comparisons with the sources. I just bought a new pair of running shoes. I started doing the research, but then I was like, why am I wasting all this time? I hopped over the Vetted, found my new favorite pair of shoes. It was so great. It was incredibly easy. So gang, change the way you shop online. Make that research part a whole lot easier. Shop smarter with Vetted and start saving some time and money. So just click the link in the description below. Vetted, thanks for sponsoring today's video and making such a cool time-saving, money-saving product. I mean, I don't know who couldn't love this. Okay, it's been about an hour. This is looking really good. I'm just going to oil an 11x5 bread pan. I'm going to add a small piece of parchment paper, and then I'm just going to punch this out and just get it into the bread pan. And cutting off any excess, you can bake that just on its own. It'll be its own nice little bun. Now we're going to cover these up just one more time and let it rise for about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how hot your house is. And this is all resting time. There's not a lot of work to this. Now, it's been 45 minutes. I have my oven preheated for 350 degrees. I'm going to have a little fun with that smaller bun. I have some rice seasoning I'm going to sprinkle on there. I'm just curious what it comes out like. I'm going to pop these in and bake them for about 30 minutes. Just pay attention because you want them to be slightly browned. I ended up adding about 5 extra minutes to mine. I mean, and look, this is bread. So I'm going to pull it out, set it on a rack, and let it cool down. Now that dinner I was telling you about, it's a creamy mushroom pasta. It's 100% plant-based. It's really easy, really good. It's really good, and it's very rich, super savory. So those flavors need to be balanced out. Let me show you. First, we need some mushrooms. Now, I just have a blended mix and some white button cap. I'm gonna wash these off, chop them up pretty fine, and then we're gonna throw them into a pan, cover them with water and a little bit of salt, heat them up, bring them up to a boil, and let that water boil out. Now, while that's happening, I'm gonna cook my fettuccine noodles, and once they're done, I'm just gonna pull them out, set them to the side, and then we're gonna I wanna transfer the mushrooms from the pan into that saucepan, so I have something a little bit larger to mix everything in. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of garlic, and who am I kidding? Who adds just a little bit? And a little olive oil, and then just toss those around until the garlic is nice and soft. A little translucent. Now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of flour and let that brown. Once it's browned up, I'm going to toss some veggie broth in there with a little bit of salt and black pepper and then just stir that up. It's going to thicken up. It's going to be almost like a roux. Now, I know this is not a roux. Now at this point, we're going to add our cream. I'm going to be using just a coconut milk. I think this is going to work perfect for this. Now I'm going to add in a bunch of black pepper, toss in some thyme, chives, tarragon, and then let that simmer up. We need to reduce this by about half. Now once it's thickened up, I can slide my spatula through and create a little crevice, and I mean, it's nice and thick. It's almost very cheesy, and you can taste it at this point. It's good. Now, this is going to be good on its own, but like I said, very rich. There's no acid in this to balance it out. Nothing to really make those herbs pop, which is what we really want to do. In a pasta like this, you would normally kind of like deglaze a pan with some wine or sherry, or you might even add some like vinegar or lemon here. But I didn't want to add any of those, but we still need an acid, so the sour salt or citric acid is going to do just that. It's going to add the acid, balance the flavors, but no additional flavors. So I'm going to plate half of this without the citric acid, and then add a few pinches of citric acid in the remaining. But a half teaspoon is going to be enough for this entire dish. And now we have 2 different plates. I want to see, is Monica going to be able to tell? I think you're going to immediately notice how the herbs taste herbier and everything else just kind of pops. So let's see what Monica has to say.
First, I just want to see what you think about the bread. Is it like sourdoughy-ish,
Okay.
you know? I mean, what do you think?
Very much.
Yeah.
Oh my god. This
Super good.
bread is awesome. It tastes like bread.
Yeah.
And it's very sourdough, actually.
Yeah, it does have that nice sour kind of kick to it.
Yeah. Like that's what I would guess this bread is. It's
Yeah.
sourdough bread. For sure.
I know this isn't sourdough, but this was quick.
It tastes like it.
I'm really happy about it. Okay, we'll dive in. So, get a little bite of this one first and a little bite of this one first.
Oh, they're different.
Yep, and then tell me which one you like better.
Cheers.
Super good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Love it.
What do you think about it?
Oh my god, I love it. It's delicious. It's
Yeah.
creamy. It's like very tasty and you know, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This one?
Also very good.
Yep. Can you tell the difference?
Yeah. This one is a bit more like kind of a buttery flavor.
Yep.
And this one does have kind of like that, like a little bit of a vinegar or sour type of flavor to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one do you like better?
I mean, I love this one because
Yeah.
it has a really good kick to it. It's a little different.
Kind of like,
Yeah, a little bit more of that cheesier flavor versus like a buttery flavor, I guess. Yeah, like this one's solely just more like a creamy, buttery flavor, and I can taste some of the like seasonings, like a little bit of the tarragon, maybe no thyme actually. But on this one, they really do just pop out, you know?
yeah, it's the citric acid. This one's super savory. This one's also super savory, but it pops, it brightens it up.
It's really good. It almost has a little bit of like a lemony flavor, to be honest. You know?
Yeah. You know, I could have gone a lot more acidic or a little bit less without any addition of any more liquid. Again, I think it's one of the most underutilized seasons in your pantry.
It's really good. I love the extra burst of flavor.
I'm gonna mix a little bit of acid in mine. But
Okay.
this is dinner, baby. You want some more
Yay.
bread?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.